Good evening, everyone. Can I please have a motion and a second to adjourn executive session and reconvene the public meeting?
Motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Can we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence to honor our servicemen and women? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Can the district clerk please call the roll? Present.
Present.
Jacqueline D. Lorenzo, trustee.
Present.
Jacqueline Napolitano Forno, trustee.
Present.
Melissa Torregrossa, trustee. Dr. Joseph T. Centimore, superintendent.
Present.
Reza Kola Haifer, assistant superintendent for administration and personnel.
Kathy, that was so good. Thank you for asking. You did. That's excellent. Thank you so much.
That has stressed me out all day. Robert Hauser, assistant superintendent for business and operations.
Present.
Christina Poppy, assistant superintendent for curriculum instruction.
Present.
Thank you. Can I please have a motion and a second to accept the minutes of the April 8, 2025 meeting?
Motion. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. So now, Mr. Hauser, you will present the budget, the proposed budget for the 2025-26 school year.
Yes, thank you again for this opportunity.
Been eagerly anticipating this.
Beautiful, great job. Okay, so here we are for the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Looks like this might be the 6th or 7th presentation for the following school year's budget. Tonight we're going to speak about final proposed, the proposed budget with the expenditures and the revenues. As I've done every meeting, I put up this calendar here and I highlighted where we are. Unfortunately, once again, I keep moving the line that says state legislative budget with our school aid final estimate. Unfortunately, we still do not have a final state aid estimate from the state legislature and the governor. Okay, but tonight the board will be hopefully the board will be adopting this proposed budget that I'm about to present here. Just want to go through those last two lines on the calendar just so everybody's aware. So May 13th, all right, will be the actual public budget hearing. All right, we'll do a final presentation. And then on May 20th will be the actual budget vote along with the school board election. Okay, and for those of you in the audience, I see most of you have a copy, but there are extra copies. I put them on a few of the chairs. So this page right here is really the summary of the proposed budget. And if we work our way from the top down, up at the top, there's a line called the proposed expenditure budget. And if you carry that all the way over to the right in green to the 2025-26 proposed draft budget, you can see the total amount of the proposed expenditures, that $229,058,920. And if you carry that one more column over, you can see that that's a $6,485 what am I saying? $6,485,902 increase, which is 2.91% increase. Okay. The next a number of lines here are the proposed revenues to actually pay for the 229 million that we're going to propose as the budget and how to pay for that. So I'm going to go kind of fast through here. If anybody's got a question, just let me know. If we go down about halfway to that line that's highlighted in blue, amount to be raised by taxes, and you carry that all the way over to that green column, you'll see that $145,707,696 number. So that's the amount we are proposing to collect from the residents within the district and also commercial enterprises in the district to pay for this budget. You carry it one more column over, you can see it's a $1,933,428 increase, which translates into a 1.34% levy increase. Okay, the amount to be raised by taxes is also called the levy. That is the maximum amount that the New York State tax cap calculation allows for our districts. Okay, every district has a different can have a different amount. Okay, going just a little further down to the line in yellow, which is the difference for expenditures versus revenue. So we have balanced this budget, I'll say, so that the proposed expenditures and all of the revenues equal. So there's no difference between those two numbers. Okay, and that's where ideally where we want to be. All right. Next line down is the assessed valuation. So that's what the town of Islip, the most recent number that we have, it's in green, 689,114,934. That's the most recent factual number that we have from the town for the total assessed valuation in the Connecticut School District. Okay. I've shown at the very bottom here what the estimated school taxes, these are not your total taxes, but your total school taxes, what they may be with the proposed budget being adopted with that assessed valuation. So for example, if there's a home in the Connecticut School District that's assessed at $10,000, if you carry that all the way over to the green column, you would see that the school taxes are estimated to go up to $2,114.42. Carry it one more column over, that would be a $28.06 increase for the year, which translates into that 1.34%. That's that same number I highlighted a little higher up in blue. Okay, every home has a different assessed valuation. Many homes might have different exemptions, and it can be a number of exemptions, so it's very difficult to tell what the actual school taxes would be on a particular house. But we gave at least 5 different scenarios here. So if anyone wanted to take a look at their most recent tax bill, which you probably got in December, it would have that assessed value on there, and you can use that to estimate what your school taxes will be. But we're estimating right now that the taxes would increase about 1.34%. Let's go to the next slide. All right, so as I mentioned before, when I looked at showed you the calendar, we still don't know what the final state aid number is going to be. The legislature with the Assembly and the Senate and the governor are still back and forth trying to iron out a budget, even though the state fiscal year started April 1st. They have done several extenders to keep the state running, but unfortunately we don't know the final state aid. So in our case, if we talk about just foundation aid, which is one component of state aid, but it's the largest component. If the state legislature, along with the governor, were to grant us an extra 1%, which is what we are hearing, but we don't know that for a fact, that would translate into about $360,000, $311 for us. Okay. At this point, we had to balance the budget so that the board can adopt. So if we were to get this $360,000, this would actually help, I'll say, replenish our reserves that we're anticipating using, because we don't know if we're going to get this number or not. So, like I said, if we get it, it'll just go back towards replenishing the district's, I'll say, reserves. Okay. I put 2 notes up there. You know, since the 25-26 proposed budget must be adopted, any anticipated additional state aid approved would be applied back to the reserve. So that's just what I said. Okay. And then other potential sources of funding, which is something called prior year state aid. We're going to talk about that in the following slide. Would also help replenish our reserves. Oh, too fast. Okay. So as I just said, prior year's state aid claims. So our district, this is a summary right now, more or less in chronological order, of prior year's state aid claims that we have pending up at the state that have yet to be funded. We have recently heard that the top 2 yellow lines there, which are the oldest claims, are potentially going to be funded if the budget were to be approved by the state. So we're waiting to see that. But you can see the whole list here, especially one of them that's about $1.4 million is pretty significant. But these top 2 go back 13, 12 years that we still haven't received money from the state. Dr. Senemo, do you want anything?
Yeah, I mean, so certainly our school district is not alone. I believe across New York State, in the amount of about $370 million, there are money is, prior aid is owed to a lot of school districts. So, if the state assembly and the state senate are successful in getting the ball rolling on these prior year, aids being realized, while the initial 2 that come out to be about $51,000 is not a huge amount when you're talking a $230 million budget, as you see in subsequent years aid owed to the district, that would be extremely helpful. Again, we're not alone in this, and we haven't gotten a good reason why districts like ours haven't realized it yet. But this is in addition to hoping that the Assembly and the Senate are successful in getting that 1% or close to 1% additional foundation aid. This would be a really great thing, even if it's only $50,000 for next year. Just the fact that get that ball rolling again, because there's some significant money. When you're looking at, it's like your home finance, where you're looking at your expenses and your revenue in, and then you got that jar on the table, the little cookie jar that doesn't have cookies in it. Especially if it's in my house, because they don't last too long. It has, the piggy bank, the savings. And so when Mr. Hauser is talking about fund balance and various reserves, that's the savings account. That's the piggy bank. So school districts will tap into it. And ideally, when the books close, September-ish, you replenish as much of that as possible. But not always. This would be a tremendous help. So we appreciate the advocacy efforts of certainly our local senator and assembly people. And this would be a great thing, not just for this year's budget, in terms of the 25-26, but for the future as well. Thank you, Mr. Hauser.
You're welcome. Okay, so to just emphasize a little bit more about our UPK, or our Universal Pre-Kindergarten Program. We mentioned at the last meeting that we were going to be expanding the program from 11 sections that currently have 190 students this year by 2 more sections to 13. All right, that will allow us to have a total of 226 pre-kindergarten students.
Mr. Hauser,
Yes.
at the last board meeting, we had a board member question the funding and request to see if parents could be charged, at which time I stated that I believed we would lose funding. And you guys said that you would look into it. I recall that that was something told to me years ago when I was first on the board, when people wanted to, when UPK wasn't in the schools, when it was at the nursery schools. For instance, there was one by Cherokee that was on Motor Parkway that some of our children went to, and we weren't allowed to pay. You had to either pay the school directly and be a nursery school student, but UPK could not be charged. I said that last time, and I just wanted you to let the board know what the outcome was so that they understand it before they start trying to charge parents for something that we're supposed to fund with scope.
Yes. So if the district were to charge parents for the pre-K program, we would be in jeopardy and we would lose the aid that's given to the district.
Thank you. That's what I believed last week, and that's why I brought it up.
Thank you. I actually had that on for board discussions. I know you brought it up now, because I had that same question, so thank you for that
You're welcome.
information.
In a second. Nope, we're having a public comment right after this.
All right, so another program, or actually 2 programs that we operate at the district, and these programs are with the assistance of BOCES, whereas the UPK program is not. It's a separate organization called Scope. We actually operate a summer enrichment program, and we also operate an alternative high school. So we just want to put this information up there to let everyone know what the actual net cost is to the district for us to operate both of those programs. We continue to have conversations with BOCES. I believe that we have a conversation scheduled for tomorrow about especially the alternative high school to determine the scope of these programs and the cost as well.
Yeah, so in terms of the alternative high school, we have to adopt a budget tonight. BOCES is concerned that on their end, it's operating at a loss. So we're still, discussing what this will look like, the scope and the cost. And if there is a cost adjustment, that would have to be offset by, or use of reserve or another funding source. But we have to adopt, and this is where what's in the budget based on, rollover. We understand, and they've been great partners. We understand their concern, and those conversations are ongoing.
Dr. C, are you keeping, so the 41,000, the summer enrichment program is in the budget?
Yes, and
That's
that's the net cost to the district. There's actually more budgeted for that. That's why, Ms. Hauser, you can just go back. That's why that has a designation.
I saw
of
the
it.
asterisk, on the alternative, but I'm questioning the summer enrichment.
Right, the summer enrichment is in the budget, and what's budgeted is actually a greater amount than that. But the net cost after we get aid, and with this program, there is a tuition component that is going up about 3% ish to about $650. Every year it goes up a little bit.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure you weren't cutting it, because I know that a board member brought this up at the last board meeting, and it was in jeopardy, and that shouldn't be in jeopardy because BOCES does so much for our kids, and we do have a component that they pay.
Okay, I've also attached, and I don't feel we need to go through it right now, but just really for transparency purposes, there are 3 pages after this discussion page that are the snapshot of the budget sorted from the highest dollar increase down to actually the, I'll say, from the highest dollar increase all the way down to the highest decrease in the budget. So that's actually a 2-page document if anybody wants to see that. And then we've attached a number of pages that show each of our 10,000 plus line item codes and some history that's included with it, so that anyone who wants to can see exactly where each dollar that's in the proposed budget is scheduled to be spent.
Can I ask you, Mr. Hauser, why the Board of Ed budget line went up so much? I noticed that we had brought that down in the past years. And I'm noticing that it went up 37.14%. Is that for the conferences and stuff? But I mean, last year it was only one of us that went.
Yeah, I believe, unfortunately, I have page 11 in my bottom right-hand corner. I'm not sure if anyone can really see that. It's a little faint, but I'll put it up here. So
Looks like
this
the
is-
BOCES line almost doubled.
Yeah, so
tripled,
So
actually.
this is the line item where we've included the BOCES, the demographic, and the enrollment study.
Okay, we're putting it under the Board of Ed.
It's in it. Yeah,
I'm
it's
fine with
in,
that, as
it's
long as
in the
that's what it-
budget development, but
Right.
we never had closure on that in terms of a commitment, but we do have to adopt the budget.
Correct.
So,
So that's fine if that's where it is. I just wanted to
Yeah.
Right,
find out.
doesn't mean we have to spend it, but
no, and
that's
then that
where
would
it-
be, it would go back to fund balance,
Correct.
or put in reserve.
That makes,
if it's
that's
not
fine.
used.
Like I said, I want to
Yeah.
get that study done, so that's fine. I just wanted to make sure we weren't upping the Board of Ed 37.14%,
No,
the
that's
way
where
it looks.
That's where, and we do need final guidance. Doesn't have to be tonight from, majority of the board about that, but at least it's in the budget development. What's also in the budget development under athletics, because I know this came up at the last board meeting. We have a wonderful flag football team, varsity flag football team, and we do have the numbers, and there is the ability to put a schedule together for a JV team for next year. So that is in the budget for next year.
And if anyone has a question after tonight or tomorrow, at the bottom of this screen here, I put my name and my contact information if you want to call me or email me with any questions that you might have.
Is that your personal cell phone, home email, home address?
I love this opportunity.
Early
I
Sunday
really do.
morning breakfast sandwiches? Oh, okay.
It is. It is his
Anytime.
personal because he lives here anyway.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hauser. I will now open the floor for the public comment on the proposed budget. An additional public comment period will be held later in the evening. I will call individuals forward one at a time. Please wait for my acknowledgement before stepping to the podium. Any person wishing to address the board shall address the board president. Comments should be kept as brief as possible. Each person will be limited to 3 minutes for one or more topics. Individual employees, parents, or children should not be identified by name, title, position, grade, or building. The use of foul language and threatening comments will not be tolerated, and the board will consider a recess until order is restored. In accordance with Policy 1230, public comment will not exceed 30 minutes. If there are additional persons wishing to speak, the board may consider a motion to extend the time. So this is for questions on the proposed budget. Number 1. Nobody? Number 2, number 1.
Last meeting I asked about federal funding, and Mr. Hauser sent me the auditor's report that ended June 30th, 2024. And in that report, there was 3.5 million in COVID funds, which is more than half of what we receive from the Department of Education. So it doesn't say, though, in that auditor's report what those funds are used for. So my question is, we've heard a few times that the COVID funds will go away at some point. When is it going away? What does that money pay for? Do we have to make up for that money going away somewhere else in the budget?
So I'll start and then I'll hand the baton to my colleagues. So I believe the COVID funding ended at the end of September, this past September. And so school districts had to make decisions. If they use that funding for things such as staffing and they wanted to maintain the staffing, then they had to work that into the budget development. And so that's essentially what we've done is as we've transitioned away from the COVID spending, like every other school district in the state, the COVID funding, the things that we are maintaining have been budgeted for.
And the other question that I have, not related to that, but from hearing tonight, y'all have seen me come up here talk about BOCES. I love BOCES. What is the BOE BOCES study?
That study, if the board decides to go in that direction, would be a population enrollment study. The board had authorized one at the time, 2018. And so it's in the budget if the board decides to authorize it.
If it means more kids are able to go?
Thank you. Obviously, we know our current K through 12 and the 12th graders, they're graduating soon. And so in terms of K through 11, we know that we migrate them forward for a year. What these studies can help is kind of that crystal ball to the future about, where our future kindergarten, numbers could be. Because obviously, as they go through 13 years, right? Yeah.
Number 3.
So, I don't know if I should direct it to you, Mr. Hauser. So now these, from the Greater Ronkonkoma Civic, you'd be surprised the questions we get from people about everything in the district and the area. So I've seen a lot of discussion about UPK and how people are getting their place and their time for their child. So now that we're going to open up 2 more, I'm sorry, have those people, or is it going to be that many more people who are going to be pulled out of the lottery so that their children will get a chance to go to the extra sessions of UPK? And as a follow-up, people are asking about trades. So can they find someone from Cherokee who wants to go to Idle Hour? I'm just making it up. And someone wants to go from Idle Hour to Cherokee. Are they allowed to do that swap? Because people are saying yes and people are saying no.
Can I have Ms. Poppy? Can you help us with this? Happy to do so. So these are great questions. And to answer your first question, the UPK lottery is pulled from every applicant who submitted their completed UPK application by the application deadline. So all of those numbers are pulled and everyone is assigned essentially a position in the lottery. I'm sorry not to interrupt, but I think his question was, were the other 2 sections pulled already also?
So they were, I'm just getting there, right? So everybody who submitted an application, we had 271 people who submitted completed applications by the application deadline. We pulled 271 positions, and we've filled those positions according to the number of seats that are available, right? So we have 226 seats that are available, and the people who are number 227 and beyond have a position on a waiting list. So it was all one draw, and we've been able to accommodate those 2 extra sections without doing a separate drawing, so to speak. Does that make sense?
That makes a lot of sense. I just didn't know if whether we pulled for the first 11 sessions and then we have to pull again, but having everyone pulled, because some people may decide not to, and then we move people up from the waiting list. Makes sense.
That's right. And then to answer your second question,
My office doesn't accommodate any swaps, I'll call them, for placement. But I do understand that there is a location somewhere out there in social media land where individuals find one another and they perhaps agree to trade their designated placements. When that happens, those two individuals contact my office and will honor the swap. But it has to be mutual on both sides, and it's not something that we coordinate internally. That practice started a couple of years ago, and I understand, although I don't have a view into it or a lens to see what that looks like, I do understand that it's occurring over a social media outlet.
Great. I just want to know because people are asking, and social media is rough because some people say no, you can't do it. Some people say there's a way to do it. So now, at least if they're listening, they have a feel for what they can at least try and do. Thank you. Good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I actually ask you a question about that? Because in social media land, just for anybody listening for clarification, is if somebody says, I got a spot in Idle Hour UPK, right? But like, I'm actually just going to send my kid to somewhere completely different. So there's not actually a swap. Are people allowed to selectively give a space to someone, their neighbor? They know their neighbor wants a spot in that school.
That's an excellent question. So what happens in that instance is that we've asked every person who was awarded a spot or a placement to confirm their placement, to confirm or accept their placement. If someone is not interested in holding on to the placement that they achieved through the lottery, they're notifying my office, but they're not swapping, essentially, because they're not going into a separate placement within our UPK program. So it's a confirmation or a denial of their spot, and that's communicated to my office. And I believe that that's communicated to every lottery participant in the initial communication that went home following that lottery.
But like my question being, if I'm going to decline the spot, can I? Because I believe the situation I'm remembering, the person had accepted and confirmed, changed their mind. So now they were going to say they don't want to, but like somebody commented and was like, oh, I want to go to that one. Could that person who's now going to decline call and say, my neighbor, John Smith, really did want a spot in that and is on the waiting list? Whatever it is, can he have it?
So the declination would then be accomplished in order of the waiting list, right? So we would go to the number one spot in the waiting list, whomever has that position, and offer the declined spot to that individual rather than swapping it out with a relative or a friend or acquaintance, to your point.
Thank you. Ms. Poppy, thank you. Number 4. 5. Any more budget questions? Great. I'm sorry?
Right,
Okay.
they want to know if there's going to be a public comment
Yes,
now.
there's another public comment at the end.
Right, so usually we have a public comment now. Are we going to have that?
Right, no, it's after.
But we're not.
This is for no, because this is just the budget adoption. It's not like a regular meeting.
Okay.
Yeah. So there will be another public comment, but at the end. So any more on the budget? All right. Can I please have a motion and a second to approve the budget as submitted?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Can I please have a motion and a second to approve the instructional and non-instructional personnel listings as submitted?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Can I please have a motion and a second to approve consent agenda items 2 through 5?
Motion.
Second.
Any questions?
I have a question. I don't know who would be able to answer this, Mrs. Poppy or Dr. C. I'm trying to find out what happened with the senior trip. It looks like it changed, which looks very nice, but the question I have is, we have 30 adults scheduled. It says approximately 30 adults, and the admission price is $550. How are we covering those 30? Is it from fundraising? Is it from the students' money? Parents were asking me this, actually, through Messenger and through social media. They were questioning what the situation was with how expensive it is for some of these trips. Are we covering? Are we, as I'm saying, the district, giving them money? Because I didn't see it on any of the budget lines. Is the high school fundraising to cover those 30, or are the kids being charged extra money to offset that 30? And also, what was the reasoning to switching? I mean, I'm glad they did, because I heard the place that they went this year, the kids weren't happy with, which they weren't happy with it last year, but we said something last year and didn't change. I'm glad they finally changed it. But was this something, was it sent out in a survey? Did the kids get to help select this? Was this chosen by the advisors or by teachers? Was it chosen by administration? I'm just curious to know, did the kids have a say in this?
I can provide a bit of information, and to answer your last question, that piece I'd have to get back to you about. So there is a change in location for this proposed trip. And according to my understanding, contractually, this trip, God bless you, seems to include in the student pricing that offset of the chaperone's accommodations for the trip itself.
Is it always like that? Has that always been like that? Because I feel like some of the different organizations have raised money, or we have student government, we have the seniors that when they're raising the money. I'm just trying to understand if we can make it cheaper for kids, what's a way that we can do it to offset and cover the chaperones?
I can find out more information
Right.
from the class advisors regarding that and share it with the board.
Any other questions?
I don't have a question. I just want to make a quick comment on the Beats for Liam. I just want to put a thank you out there to the family that does this, because an incredible program that we have. So just from, myself, I'll speak for myself. Thank you for doing that. And I'm very happy to see that we are doing it again this year. So thank you for that.
Each year it saves. Every year they have kids that a few years ago I brought my daughter. It was an excellent program. It actually does a baseline for so many kids. So if anybody hasn't done it before, they are so generous. There are so many slots. If you can get in there, it does give you a baseline for your child, especially for those that are playing sports and may need it. And they do it absolutely free. And they're really a spectacular family. Their generosity is much appreciated.
It's very easy to do. They have it set up so well, one station to the next, cardiologist at the end. It really is incredible, very easy to do. And I personally recommend everybody, especially if your child's in sports, definitely take advantage of this.
I agree. I think it's really important. I myself take my kids to a cardiologist just because you can never be too safe. All in favor?
Aye.
Right.
Aye. Motion carries. So can I actually get a motion and a second from the board to move public comment to before our discussion items? So I don't-
Motion.
It's actually after. so we
Second.
could just. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, I will now open the floor for the public comment portion of the agenda. I will call individuals forward one at a time. Please wait for my acknowledgement before stepping up to the podium. Any person wishing to address the board shall address the board president. Comments should be kept as brief as possible. Each person will be limited to 3 minutes for one or more topics. Individual employees, parents, or children should not be identified by name, title, position, grade, or building. The use of foul language and threatening comments will not be tolerated, and the board will consider a recess until order is restored. In accordance with policy 1230, public comment will not exceed 30 minutes. If there are additional persons wishing to speak, the board may consider a motion to extend the time. Number 1.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Michael Abraham. I'm a junior at Connecticut High School. And recently I proposed earlier in, I believe it was like January, February, I had submitted a proposal to start an engineering club at Connecticut High School. I was told in I think mid-April, right before break, I went in to ask for a status update, and they told me that because of budgetary constraints, no clubs were passed, including the engineering club. But I just want to share with you guys my thoughts and ideas for it because I think it is something that could be very beneficial for the school. Would you mind if I have 10 copies here? Could I pass them out?
I would love that.
Thank you very much.
You know, you want to give it to me and I'll hand them out
Sure,
while you
thank you.
speak? Yep.
Maybe we could just put, oh, thank
Thank you very much. All right. So yeah, I tried to be as comprehensive as possible with that. I address funding, what expenses we have, how we'd raise money, our plans, why it's important. I wanted to talk about particularly the finances. I didn't really have very many expenses for the club, at least not anything that was very expected. My plan is to do a lot of labs for the club to kind of have kids be able to get hands-on experience and really develop the skills through doing, not just learning or hearing. So we would need some sort of materials, but I don't expect that to be very expensive. I think I estimated about $200 on there, but I can't imagine it would be much more than that. We would like to use resources that we already have access to. So, for example, in any sort of like programming activity, we have access to OEO class already. All students have accounts on that. In some of the computer science classes at the high school, I've used Tinkercad, and that's a designing software to kind of create things. And then we have the 3D printer at the high school that I think could be a very useful resource. Additionally, I did some brainstorming, and I talked with Mrs. Berger about what we could do to raise funds. And one of the ideas that we came up with was sort of like a camp over some sort of break or maybe over summer, just like a quick 1, maybe 2-day thing where we would have younger students, elementary, middle school students come in, pay a small fee, maybe $10, $15. They would come, and then we'd have student volunteers who would lead them through a lab that would help them develop these skills early and gain interest in STEM, additionally raising funds for the club. So we think that would be a great way to not only get funding for the club, but also promote interest at a younger age to kind of funnel them into this field. I know personally a lot of myself and my friends are very interested in engineering, computer science, STEM, any STEM field really, and they would be very interested in this club. As a part of submitting the proposal, I had to collect signatures. The required amount was 50, which we crushed. We surpassed it, and it didn't take very long. So I think there would be a lot of kids who would be interested in this, and I think it would be very beneficial to not only students now, but students 10, 20 years from now. Thank you.
Michael, first of all, I just want to say this is amazing.
Thank you very
You
much.
are amazing. This is up my alley. You two should be so proud.
Thank you.
He is awesome.
Thank you very much.
I don't understand why this club wouldn't pass. Like, you've done more work than I've seen anybody do. Like this.
Thank you very much.
This is great. I would love to see this club take off.
I thought we had an email, so I was under the assumption, that's why when you got up and handed this to us, that this was already going to be passed. Because we spoke about it, right, on email,
I sent it.
and we were very much for it.
Yeah.
So is there a reason why we can't?
Well, before that answer, I just want Michael to speak really quick about the internship component, because that's an amazing component. So if you could speak about that really quick.
I forgot to mention, so through Mrs. Rapone at the high school, she's the career advisor, she has helped organize many job shadows at different engineering firms, and I've gone on a couple of these. And at them, I've spoken to different industry professionals, and they said that they would be happy to come in and speak to students. And through this, students would be able to network and maybe potentially through college get an internship with people that they've met at these events. And maybe even land a job when they're out of college and when they're in this industry. So I think it opens up the world to kids, not only to see what the job is like from the perspective of somebody who actually does it, but also allow them to talk to these people and meet them and not just be, out on their own when they're in the field.
We're seeing such an uptick also in students going to college for engineering, mechanical engineering. It's a great career. So really, I had brought up at one of the other meetings in April, I know you backed me on this one, where we had a list of all the clubs. And I said that we have so many clubs that a few years ago, like 2 years ago, a year and a half, we actually, I want to say it was at one of the middle schools, we did computer science and we put it with another one, right? Because there weren't enough kids. So why can't we look at the clubs, see what's going on? Because I got to be honest with you, I cannot stand when parents call me and say, hey, Jackie, my kid went to a club. They signed in for 10 minutes and they left. And I said, well, how many kids were there? And they said, oh, 2. Or, it's great that we have all these clubs, but why don't we start going through them and making sure that we have kids that are interested in them? And not to say if you only have 2 kids, we shouldn't have it, because there are some kids that maybe this is the only thing that they're really interested in. But why not put them together? Things that are closely attached, why not merge them?
So first, Michael, great job. All right, and everybody loves engineering and STEAM. So when we received that inquiry right before the holiday break, Ms. Poppy, because the high school does have a club request process. All right, and so Ms. Poppy reached out to the high school to inquire about this, but also what other clubs were being requested, and that same question in terms of how's the attendance been on some of the other clubs. Is there an opportunity, not necessarily maybe with this one, but to consolidate, because we have done some of that. And so, me take the baton and pass it to Ms. Poppy, and she'll give you an update from there.
I can give a little bit of information about what is currently running at the high school now. So currently the high school has 40 different clubs that are active. And I do have average attendance numbers to share with the Board of Education. Between last year and this year, a total of 8 clubs, including Michael's Engineering Club proposal, have been submitted and proposed and submitted to high school administration. But because we haven't added clubs to that 40 number, the way that clubs have essentially been engendered over the years is that one club dissolves and a new club takes its place, right? So we're essentially in that holding pattern because the clubs on paper, I can't speak to what happens during specific meetings, but on paper, the attendance numbers are such that administration feels that they should be able to continue to run, right? It does not mean, however, that opportunity to consolidate and to combine doesn't exist. But to give you an idea, last year 5 clubs were proposed and we didn't onboard any of them. This year we've had 3 proposals submitted with that completed application process. So there are 8 clubs in a queue, so to speak, but no room to run them unless we get
Can you bring those 8 forward, and after you bring them forward to the board, and also bring forward the 40 and show us, we did this in the past, like an audit of what clubs, I want to say it was like a year and a half ago.
It was a year ago, and we actually took clubs away. So I'm a little surprised right now that you're telling me we're at capacity due to the fact that we went through that entire list. There was many clubs that there was not attendance. There was clubs that we got rid of. So I'm a little surprised we still have 40 clubs existing when we went through the list and got rid of them. I also am a little shocked that, again, Michael had so many people on his list eager to be in this club. that why as a district we wouldn't want to entertain, especially the uptick in the engineering and many kids going to college for that. He's done a lot of homework. He has I know many clubs that don't even have all these resources and things that he has already prepared, the labs and things like that, that why wouldn't we want to entertain this?
Here's my question. Why do we have to cap it at 40?
I was just gonna ask that same thing. Why are we capping
Like,
it at
why?
40?
I don't understand. Why can't we have 41 or 48?
So the clubs are built into, there is a budgetary consideration for advisors, right? And so there's a component to it that is static in that regard. But we have not planned to increase the number of clubs overall. That would be a process in and of itself. So we haven't engaged in that type of planning. It's not to say that it couldn't happen. And Michael, I certainly don't want to disparage your process, your interest, your investment, and your passion within your proposal here. I certainly commend it. I'm just trying to give the background. I don't want anything to be misconstrued.
So
about.
from our perspective, and again, if you're talking a couple of weeks at the central office level with a holiday in between, it wasn't about one club. This is an outstanding proposal. It was looking at, from last year to this year, a total of 8 that have been requested. We still haven't gotten the final state aid number. So certainly, if we're talking about one club or 2 clubs, being able to, we already have an adopted amount, being able to, work that out. But, when you start talking about 6, 7, 8 clubs at this point, and there is a process, and we don't look to micromanage, the high school does have a pretty thorough process about vetting, as do the other buildings, vetting a club request. The topic is outstanding. The proposal is outstanding. Your presentation today was outstanding.
I want to know what the
Actually, you have to follow the order.
I want to know what the actual actual number of students. Can you bring us, because this is not micromanaging, asking for an audit, a full audit. We did it once before where all of and I know we don't always get it, which is the sign-in sheets. Because I would love to see them, because I would love to see how many kids are actually interested in some of these clubs. We have 40 clubs. How many kids are showing up to these clubs?
Right, and
Consistently.
No one answered the question that I know for sure we went through these. I mean, this was something that I cared about. So, and I had feedback from other staff members and advisors on this when we went through it. So no one ever answered the question of how we have full capacity of 40 when we last year got rid of some of the clubs. So I'm a little surprised we're there.
Merged.
Right, exactly.
We actually merged. I remember specifically the computer science. Computer science became something else, correct? It was no, but there was one specifically. It was a computer science and some other computer, and we put them together.
We have the programming club. I'm a member. Yeah, they can.
There's definitely some that we merged.
I just want to ask a
and it made
question.
more sense.
When you go on the district website, go to the high school, go to the clubs. There's 46 listed as of October 8th, 2024. So, well, that's right, but but at some point we listed 46 when we had a cap of 40. So like somebody went on and added and didn't take off if that's the case. Like, that's where it gets like misleading and confusing.
The ones that were eliminated going into the start of the school year, they're not on there on that.
So actually, Mr. Kolahifar and I were just having a sidebar conversation. I think some of those were middle school clubs.
Yes,
Certainly.
they were. Some were.
Some
yes.
were middle school clubs and some were high school clubs.
Right.
But we would have to go back to comb through and see, which were middle school, which were high school, how it panned out.
I actually still have the list on my desk at work because I remember going through
Great.
it.
Me too.
So that's great. And I've been given the information for 40 clubs worth of attendance. So I'm just sharing with you what I've gathered. So whether that is an older list that's on the website that contains those older names that we've consolidated, I'm not sure. I'd have to do a cross-reference here.
Michael, what we can say is I think we're all going to continue to fight for you.
Thank you very
So it
much.
might take a little bit longer, but we're all going to continue to support you.
I just wanted to add one quick thing. So with like the budget issues, I don't know what other clubs have been proposed. And not to say that one club is more important than another, but I just think that this specifically, not only is it for kids' enjoyment, but I think it could pay dividends in the sense that it would really just increase interest in academics. It would not. It's not just like a, oh yeah, I do it for fun. It would be something that it would help kids just become more interested in things that would promote learning and problem solving and creative thinking. And, yeah,
I have to tell you that I hope that we get it done in time for you to be a part of it. You did so much work for it, and I saw at the last page that you graduate next year. So congratulations on that, moving up. And also, I hope that we do bring it in for next year because you did a lot of work here, and I'm sure the other students did too. Maybe there's a way for us to merge some other clubs that don't get as well of attendance and maybe kids aren't as interested in, and maybe we can bring in some new innovative ones like this that will bring help with future career jobs, and we'll get you guys on board with being able to do more job shadowing and learning. Really great presentation.
Thank you, Michael. And like April said, we will continue to fight for you and the other clubs. Number 2. Number 3. 4. Okay. Oh. Nope, you're 4.
Something that that I hadn't heard of before that someone had mentioned to me. Can you tell me what the Serenity Space is at Boston, I believe?
I'm going to let you go through your comment and then we'll circle back. Is that your only question?
Well,
or
I was curious to know what it is. Something about stress relief or something, and who was running that? Is it YFS? Is it are these children that should be in with the YFS workers, or is this kind of like a club, or what exactly it is? Do the parents, would they then know if your child was sent there? I just had never heard anything more about it than it was somewhere for the stressed out children to go. Would that be so in elementary?
So thank you for bringing that up. I'm not sure. We'll defer to Dr. Senamore.
So Bossy does have a space that is called the Serenity Room, Serenity Space, and you know the principal working through her shared decision making team earlier this year, and with feedback from social workers, behavior specialists, teachers, psychologists, look to create a space where mostly for the grades like 2 through 5, not kindergarten, middle first. If any students were kind of identified as having anxiety, formally or informally, kind of give them an opportunity to utilize the space for a couple of minutes. But there are protocols. There's structure, and in terms of that mental health component, that input has been there as well.
And so who's in there? Who's in there with them? One of the mental health professionals, or should they be with a mental health professional?
Not necessarily. I mean, there does need to be supervision. So it could be an aide or a teaching assistant. So
it's just something to kind of walk away from what's stressing them, or it's not somewhere to go for help then? That would be
it's more of an opportunity to decompress a little bit.
It is time, Deirdre.
It is. It's time for 5 minutes.
Right. You can't have more than 5 minutes.
I thought you meant my
Not
time.
you. No.
Right.
No.
Oh, yours is time too. You can't have more than 3 minutes. No, I'm just kidding.
We did look into this, and I know other people had asked questions, so that's why.
Actually, I'm just learning of this. I'm just hearing of it. Is this being piloted at Boston and it's going to be brought into the other elementary schools, or just the elementary school kids at Boston can get it?
This was done through their shared decision making team. So this is a Boston, initiative. Some schools may have something similar,
Doesn't Boston have? Boston also has though some of the more extreme cases of special needs and special education. So there is a reason that they do have. It's like mindfulness was what I was told. It's kind of like a mindfulness room for little. It's a great it was a great feature and add on for that school, especially for some of the behavioral issues. I mean, I
Just
support
to
it.
kind of walk away then.
It's like at the high school how we have the mindfulness room. It's nice to see it being done in an elementary setting where it could be very useful, especially for students who have anxiety, have maybe a 504, have a behavioral issue momentarily. You know, there are kids who just need a breather, and it
Right.
can't always be one teacher taking care of all them.
Right.
It's nice to have that option.
Right. So Mike, I'm sorry.
No, I would just like to, I think this is like a learning moment for us again too, of just, there was a opportunity for an educational component here that didn't exist. It was like, look at the serenity space that we got. And like, I just think we need to do a little bit better at explaining like why it matters. You know what I mean? Like the pictures made it look so great. There was like student statements in it and it was like, cool, why? And like, I don't even think it mentioned the 5-minute time limit. Like, so it just kind of read as if it was like, because even I was like, I understand the benefit, especially maybe like sensory overload. Like I need a quiet 5. Like I've said the words, I need a quiet 5 before, but I think if we were to do a better job at being like, here's what we found, here's what we think, here's why it matters, and here's the pictures and the student statements, it doesn't seem so out of nowhere. It was kind of just like, hey, look what's at Basti. And I saw a lot of mixed reactions of like, this looks cool, I think, but like, why? So learning moment maybe of just doing a good job of adding the educational piece.
I agree with you,
Shouldn't
Melissa,
there be
and I
somebody
actually said
professional
that.
in there then, if there's
I-
children that are that uptight that need to get out for 5?
I kind of think it's a nice option, especially with having kids that, like I said, that have anxiety, and they're the younger kids and the behavioral, and I supported it. I don't disagree.
No, I just think it should have been explained better because it went on social media, and I don't think we represented it. And I'm not sure.
No,
who
but I
posted
think
that, but
Basti
we didn't
represented it correctly. I think that
No, I said
It's-
we, like in the social media land. Whoever put it out, they put it out before we did, and explaining it. Like Melissa said, there's a lot of questions left open, so I understand why the community is asking.
And to respond to what you're saying about shouldn't it be like a social worker or therapist, I think for ideally, right, in a perfect world, the social worker, the elementary school social worker is like readily available to be the one there, but not everyone's like anxiety, I would say, is going to rise to the level of like needing now like talk back and forth. And I know there's a lot of red tape when it comes to minors with somebody providing mental health services. So in theory, they can't just like also approach a child and start having this conversation if there's not already existing parental consent to do that and things like that. I think as long as everybody is properly trained in recognizing a lot of signs of things, it doesn't have to be a mental health professional for if it's 5 minutes. But like I said, in a dream world, we would have one readily waiting for a crisis. But it sounds to me like an opportunity to allow these children to practice the skills that they've learned to calm down because you're not always going to have the therapist, you're not always going to have the counselor like right there. So if they are getting taught how to do breathing, if they're getting taught how to do these things, it is an opportunity as long as it's monitored and they can't just walk in and like nobody knows that they're there.
Because then the parents would have to be made aware too that your child
Yeah,
was out of sorts and had to attend.
I kind of disagree that I feel like it needs to be, that people need to understand that we're talking about elementary ed students, and that not every student that needs to decompress or take a breather needs to have mental health services. Some children actually do better with who they're comfortable with, and they could be comfortable with an aide. They could be comfortable with their principal. They could be most comfortable with their teacher, whomever they're most comfortable with. I've seen kids that sometimes break down and they want their aide before they want anyone. We have fabulous YFS workers. I've said this for years. The social workers have been incredible. We've added social workers over the years. But at the same token, they can't be everywhere all the time. And I do think that they do a great job of training all of our staff to be able to help students decompress. And that's really, these are young children. These are not kids that are like, we're not talking about, I'm not going to compare like a secondary level student to an elementary student where, you know, they're looking to decompress these little guys.
Right. Okay.
Thank you for
All right,
bringing
thank
it up
you.
to us.
Thanks.
Is there anybody else?
I don't go through the whole numbers. Come on up.
Bless you. All right. I'll give you a little bit of my background, and you'll understand at the very end why. I'm Lieutenant William Gleason, retired, FDNY. I'm a 1979 graduate of the high school. Former member of Bohemia Fire Department, U.S. Air Force. I'm a honorably discharged. Was in FDNY. Incident command trained. Hazardous material technician. With the Society of American Magicians. I sit on the National Council. I'm the Heroism and Patriot chairman. I wrote it all down on this. I'll give you another copy. I'm an extraordinary minister. I'm a Boy Scout leader. I've testified in both the House and the Senate for the 9/11 healthcare bills, and I've run a foundation for 9/11 rescuers from 2005 through 2018. I got the World Trade Center Rescuer. I've got the Kirby Malcolm Award for heroism, the 2 excellent duty medals. I have 4 vice presidential citations from the department, numerous pre-hospital saves, like 28. I got numerous commendations. I have the Queensborough President's Award for Community Service, American Legion Community Service Award, Mount Sinai Hospital, FDNY EMS Person of the Year Award, Society of American Magician Heroism and Patriot Award, and I received knighthood from the Philippine government and Knights of Rosal this past December. So I listened to the news today. I was also invited back by one of your board members. So all students shall feel welcome and supported. This was the voiced state opinion from the New York State Department of Education in the news today in response to President Trump's comment that he's going to support the Massapequa School District with their chiefs. The state policy, by taking away a symbol that was created by veterans, to honor veterans, the Thunderbird, dishonors all veterans and members of the military, and any student that is attending the high school who's going into the military, removing a mascot that was established to honor veterans, is publicly doing the opposite and showing that the school, and more importantly, the state of New York's Department of Education and New York State court system does not support students going into the military, and they are not welcome in the school. In addition, dishonoring the service of all graduates who are and who have served in the military. The Thunderbird was established by veterans when they were looking for a mascot. That was relayed to me and to many others because we've been speaking to a lot of other graduates who are veterans. Five of us, my family out of 7, have served. We did the Army, Marine Corps, Air Force, and Coast Guard. And we've spoken to other veterans, and a lot of guys and women that served prior to 1984, which was when my youngest brother graduated, all got the same story from the teachers at the high school. So we don't know who started the rumor or that it was a Indian symbol but it wasn't. It was a symbol to honor veterans. That's where that came. The Thunderbird came from, the T-bird. The reason they wore a Connect What jersey was to cover up the Air Force Academy thing that was on his chest. So today I got diagnosed with leukemia, and I get bone marrow tests when your board meets again. So probably not going to see me for quite a while.
I want to thank you for sharing with us. I'm very sorry about your diagnosis. I wish you all the best. I hope that, there's good prognosis ahead of you. And thank you for
fight it.
100%. You will fight it.
Yep.
Wishing you all the best. Thank you for speaking and sharing.
Okay. But please, keep the Thunderbird. It, send him a letter to Trump. Let him fight the fight too. But it was there for veterans. That's where it came from. And guys like me, unfortunately, we, as you know from the news, 50-50 chance. Trade Center is not very nice to us. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your service. Anyone else? All right, we're moving on to discussion items. We have student IDs. Not sure whose that is. Oh, thank you. Nobody wanted student IDs? All right, marching band students?
So I just wanted to bring that up because I had thought after last year's discussion, and like I said, I knew that some of the football players who were in the marching band were able to play the sports too. I didn't realize it was still mandatory. And I would like to advocate that it shouldn't be mandatory because that is unfair that the kids don't have the choice to join other sports, because football, as was pointed out, they can come right onto the field. But if you're in soccer, volleyball, any of the other ones, it's much harder for them to be in marching band and actually be part of a sport or another club.
I support you on that one. I absolutely have said over the years, I understand both sides because I've heard through the years that the reason that it had to be mandatory was because what I was told a few years ago when I advocated for the same thing, that it was mandatory because students most wouldn't do marching bands if they weren't forced to as part of the curriculum and part of what they needed to get the credit. I don't agree with it. I wish we had more students that wanted to do it, and we would be able to say this half is our marching band and this half is our band for when we have concerts, a concert band or something like that. I don't know if there's something we're able to do where we can have a concert band or something like that, but it would be something that I would be willing to explore.
Me too. I would support both of you on that. I was actually. I'm sorry, Christina.
I did take an opportunity based upon the conversation during our last board meeting to connect with Mr. Malafronte, just to collect some of his feedback regarding our existing program. And he gave me a lot of information to share, which about our programs from grade 3 on, but I'll focus specifically at the high school level because it seems to be really a high school conversation. So I'll start by saying and acknowledging that our high school band directors are very flexible, from what I understand, in terms of striking a balance for our student athletes who have practice, who have competitions. And about 60% of our marching band members are also participating on sports teams, right? So that's the figure that he provided. And that flexibility is really annual. And I think that should there be, and I'm sure there has been, but should there be continued concerns about a student's participation in our athletic program as well as marching band, I think that those parents or guardians should certainly start with speaking with our band directors, Mr. Malafronte is open to a conversation, and they will exercise the best amount of flexibility that they're able to in order to accommodate both. The concern here really is about the connectedness of the marching band, right? So it appears that when you provide the option, the marching band aspect falls out because students have other obligations, right? And those take precedence, and so you end up with a showing that does not a marching band make. He provided me with some of the parades and festivals that our band participates in because of its size, and many of them require a certain number of participants in order to qualify to
You know, I just want to point out that as a public school, being a part of a sport or a club and the extracurricular is a choice. We have one thing in our school that is not a choice and is mandatory. I think that is unfair. And although it is great to participate in all these different competitions or different, marching things, shouldn't it be the students who make the decision if they want to? Just because we as a school like that we're at these events, do we have to be at these events? And it really should be the students' choice that they weren't forced into something that they didn't want to participate in.
and I can certainly appreciate that. I think I want to bring light to the idea of what the potential loss is for the district if we move in that direction.
I really think we need to say that this is an extracurricular, and why is our only one extracurricular that is mandatory? I don't know why we never explored that before. Why do we have only one mandatory one? That is very unfair to those children who are part of that music, community that most of them enjoy. And the woman who spoke, all of her kids were part of the music community. It really should be a choice. And if we have a smaller program because of the choice, then so be it. But it's the student's choice what they want to participate in.
April, I agree with you to a point, but then I do see the other side, which is what about the kid that isn't in anything else, is only in marching band? And there are children who love the marching band. I've seen it myself. No, I understand that, but what I think she's saying is if we wither it down to 10 kids, there's no more marching band. So I do feel that there is some piece of it. I would like to see more flexibility, maybe, where there are students who maybe don't want to do the marching band. Can we ask why? What is it that they don't like? I know from my own child who did it 1 year, they didn't like the uniform. I mean, that's what they told me. I said, all right, like maybe down the road when you guys do uniforms, maybe the kids could have more say in it. Maybe we could look for, and again, I think they're beautiful uniforms, but I'm just saying from a child's point of view, maybe that's something to look at going forward. Maybe there's something we can do as a district to make it more appealing. I do feel like I see both sides. I don't want to see us lose marching band because there are some students who are not athletically inclined, and that's okay. And there are some students that don't want to be in a club. There are some students that are just music kids. They love it. And I don't think it's right to take that away from them. If we do something this drastic, we just need to know, again, I'm for allowing kids to have a concert band. Can we make something else and still have marching band? But what I'm saying to you is I see both sides. I just would hate to see it dwindle down to nothing. And then those children that love marching band or just love music and that's all they have. These are kids that go home and have nothing else going on.
I do not want to get rid of marching band. I'd like to make that clear because I know social media has this event and goes insane. I do not want to get rid of marching band.
But I understand what you're saying, April, and I'm not saying intentionally, but what I'm saying is that potentially could be what happens. That's what I think Mrs. Poppy's saying. Like, we need to see both sides. We need to say, yes, I want to advocate for students to be able to make a choice. But at the same token, what do we do about the kids that we're leaving out there? You know, there's always somebody who gets hurt in these kind of decisions. And you got to look at it from that standpoint is there are so many kids who love music but do not want to march. But then I see them march and they look phenomenal and they're having fun. I went to Philadelphia. I went and watched the kids and cheered them on. So, I mean, it is spectacular to see. They are an incredible marching band. I just wish there was a way for us to accommodate all. And I know that's not always something we can do.
So I have a question.
Yes, I am interested because I know you were in the middle of telling us the loss, and I do want to hear that side of it because I do see the both sides of it. You don't want to force children if the to say, well, if you're gonna want to be in band, you got to do it. But at the same time, there are these programs like the I think we do. I don't know if we still do it at Hofstra, but there's the festival that we always did every year. Are those are the I was myself was on, I wasn't in the band, but I was on Kickline, and I tell you that was one of the best things ever. All of these events that I did, being a part of the marching band through that Philadelphia parade, whatever I did when I was in high school, I want to know what you are about to say. So I would like you to continue telling us what the loss would be if we do go that route. I think the board does. It is important for the board to see every single angle of this conversation.
I sure can. So I have a list of additional events that the marching band participates in. So we know that the marching band performs at all of our home football games, the Newsday Marching Band Festival, our community homecoming, Memorial Day, and St. Patrick's Day parades, and has traveled to other states to participate in national parades and events in Washington, D.C., Philadelphia, Florida, New Jersey, Virginia, to name a few. There's no additional, the other piece of this is that there isn't an additional time commitment during the week to participate in marching band aside from those Friday night football games. Because the practice takes place during the school day, it helps accommodate our students' differing schedules. And again, Mr. Malafronte indicates that over 60% of the students in band also participate in a sport throughout the school year. He speaks a lot in his notes here about the intangibles for marching band. It builds school spirit, community through pep band at basketball and football games, pep rallies, parades, other community events. It strengthens discipline and work ethic by focusing on time management, perseverance, dedication. Students in marching band take on leadership roles and helps the student experience in managing their peers, conflict, and performance under pressure. The marching band is one of the few programs that brings together students of all skills and grade levels and fosters a community of inclusion, family, and respect. Our numbers for the marching band have been pretty consistent through the years and compare similarly to our other performing ensemble groups. In speaking with other local school districts, because I did ask Mr. Malafronte to kind of go out and find out what other experiences have been. Many of the successful programs include marching band as part of their band curriculum like we do, right? So we're talking about the potential loss of parades, pep rallies, performances for our athletes, opportunities for our district to participate in nationally recognized parades, and overall, he cites a potential loss of school spirit. It's all potential, of course. We're talking in hypothetical terms here. He did note that for the districts with large performing bands that we see at Newsday Marching Band Festival, like Northport, Comac, Farmingdale, Central Islip, marching band is a mandatory component of their curriculum, and it's part of their band curriculum. Some neighboring districts that have made it voluntary have lost their marching programs, and he does cite a couple of neighboring districts like Islip and Bayport Blue Point. So he did kind of go out and do a little bit of research just to give the full perspective here. And I certainly appreciate and understand the advocacy and wanting both sides to the coin, but I think it's important to highlight these pieces. And I'm speaking in part for Mr. Malafronte, but I know that there is a sincere dedication to preserving this program as it is currently playing out.
That's my whole fear, because like I said, I've gone to see them at the news. I've seen them at Newsday. I've seen them in Philadelphia. I saw them when they went to, I believe it was Hershey Park. That was about 3 years ago. They did a Hershey Park where we saw them at the school march, and then all the kids got to go on a big trip to Hershey Park. I mean, people have to remember one thing about marching band. If you're in marching band, you go on great trips. They're going on a great trip. I believe it's next week. Isn't it next week? They go on a great trip. I mean, so they do competitions and they have trips and they have bonding there. There is something to be said for the program. I feel bad for the kids, and I understand April's advocacy, and I support advocating for students who don't want to be in marching band but still want to be part of the band. I'm hoping that we can find a happy medium. Is there a way to have children take a band class? Maybe we can look into a band class that is more of an elective. So to be in marching band, you get your music credit, but maybe there's a band class we can have so that kids can still feel like they're in band. And then maybe that class can also be part of the concert. The way we used to have the guitars come in, and they had a class, and they did a little concert. And that was just a class. So I'm just saying I don't want to see us lose marching bands, because I've seen both sides. As a parent of somebody who's done marching band, it's a spectacular and really such a nice program. The advisors and teachers are phenomenal. They, like I said, they take these kids on trips, and we see other trips where we can't get any chaperones. But for the band trips, we got chaperones, we got everything, and they are so enthusiastic. They go on the buses with the kids. They have so much fun. Like, I would hate to see those kids lose out because we didn't have enough kids to now compete. So I see both sides.
And I wanted to just thank you for the information. Thank you to Mr. Malafante for, looking into it and gathering all of that data for us. Thank you.
So I certainly need to chime in because I feel like our music and arts program is premier, marching band is premier, and I worry, while I understand choice, I worry about the potential negative impact. So the question I was just raising is, over the years, have we had a lot of concern brought to the district? I'm not really aware in my 2 years about, are there large numbers of concerns?
Dr. C, the history of Connecticut, and I kind of tried to say this to you, I think, in the back of one of the concerts, where I said that I feel like, so the kids start out in elementary school and they're so enthusiastic and there's so many of them. Then you go to middle school and you lose a whole lot of kids. But okay, it's because they want to do sports, they have a lot of other opportunities, and it's a commitment. But I did say to you that I was concerned, why are we losing so many kids when we get to like 8th grade? Why is it that 6th grade, the kids will still do it, but then they get to, and I get it, and then they go into sports, 7th grade, okay. But the downward spiral starts actually in 8th grade. If you look at the numbers, we did it a couple of years ago. So in 8th grade, kids are like, forget it, I don't want to do this. Why? I ask that question, and I've asked it before, and I know people get annoyed at me for saying this, but there's got to be some issue there. We need to find it, because then they go into 9th grade, and the numbers dwindle even more. So now, even if, again, I want kids to have the opportunity, choice to be able to play, but maybe we can find a happy medium where we have an elective that's music that they like, that they can be a part of, but not be part of the marching band. But the marching band should be still the one where they get their credit. So if you want the music credit to go towards your diploma, that would still enforce them having to be in marching band. Maybe you could have both. I mean, I'm just throwing it out there. Obviously, the music teachers and advisors would know better. Is there something we could do so that we can give kids the opportunity to still play, if they want to still play, and the kids that march still would have to have that mandatory piece, but they are the ones who get the credit then, the course credit. You know what I'm saying? So that year in 9th grade, you have a choice. You either take art or music. Well, maybe you make an elective where this is just a choice elective, but you don't get the piece of credit that goes along with being in marching band.
I don't know if I agree with that. I do agree with the part that in 8th grade you lose, and in 9th grade you lose a lot because they don't want to be in the marching band. I have, through the years, numerous kids, and they are in the band, complain that they're in the marching band. So there are numerous complaints that it's mandatory. But but I do agree that we lose already in the middle school before, and then 9th grade is just even more of a drop. That I think we wouldn't lose as many if we didn't have that mandatory component, and that if they wanted to take that as a credit, that fine. But if they don't, I don't know, because a lot of kids want to pursue music, and
No,
because
it's
we
me.
make it mandatory, they
Come on.
lose out on that opportunity also.
So I have to concur. I mean, speaking from my own experience, my kids were excellent jazz players. Like, I loved hearing them play. And they dropped when I went to the high school because, Mom, I'm not doing marching band. So you do lose a lot of numbers once those kids go into the high school because it's a choice. And they'd rather not play the instrument than join marching band.
But what do we do? See that now this is be devil's advocate. What do you do for the students that this is their only extracurricular and they love it?
Well, I'm
And we
not saying to
have
do away.
those.
I agree
have
that there
those.
should be the flexibility. I do. If my kid was like, oh, you know what, you could still do your sport and march. We will figure it out a way. We'll work with the schedule. I don't know, some flexibility somewhere with the students. I'd be all for that.
But what I'm saying is, if I understand the piece that if you make it where it's not mandatory, you do jeopardize having a band at all, because the point is what they're trying to tell you is other districts have done this. We need to learn from them as well. That if we did that,
Did you hear me? I didn't say not to make it mandatory. I said to have more flexibility. Like, I would appreciate that flexibility to be there so that kids wouldn't have to make that hard choice. Like, you're either in or you're not in.
don't, but I thought they were pretty flexible. I mean, again, I had a child that was actually in marching band, and they were very flexible. I mean, the advisors were great. Where okay, you have a tennis match, you can't go to marching band. Come after. You have honor society. Come after. Like that. I don't want to say that we're saying things that we probably don't even have the right information. So we should, if we want to get that, we can ask and get the information. But I don't want to say that they don't have flexibility, because I've seen many students who run from off the field to go play a sport and come back. I've seen kids who literally go on the bus to go play tennis, whether it's varsity or JV. They come back, and that night they're playing at the football game.
I'd like to know if the middle school advisors, when they go to the guidance counselors and they're deciding their schedule, is it offered to them then that if you join, first off, marching band is mandatory, because I'm not sure if we're even telling these students that until they get there. Also, that even though it's mandatory, there is a lot of flexibility. Are we educating these 8th graders in knowing that if they make this choice, don't worry, if you miss 10 of them because you have a soccer game, a volleyball game, it's okay. You come to what you can come to. Are we actually educating the students in the guidance counselor's office in that 8th?
It's actually in the book. It's in the no, but the book that they give us that has the actual course selection. I believe it says under there. It says on the bottom, mandatory participation in.
Telling them that it's flexible before they make that choice? Are we telling them ahead of time, don't worry about it, it's flexible? Because many students have told me personally that when they've gone to that first meeting, that it is mandatory and it doesn't sound as flexible. So that's why I'm trying to ask if we're actually speaking about how flexible it is, or are we giving a different impression?
I can certainly do some research in that direction. I know that Mr. Malafronte and the high school teachers do go to the middle schools to talk through the program and the different ensembles that are available to students and the different types of experiences that are available to students. And I'm wondering whether that's also an opportunity where, we can speak to children themselves about, managing different activities and having that level of participation against what's required in writing. So I can go ahead and follow up on those pieces as well, for sure.
That'd be greatly appreciated.
Thank you, Ms. Poppy. So I was asked by the student government rep if I would share with the community. On May 4th is Connectquod's mental health run at the high school, organized by Ms. Necken and the Connectquod High School students. I have flyers up here for anybody that would like to see. I'm sure it's on the website. There will be vendors there where you can go and see their tables. There will be free giveaways, refreshments, and there's actually So this is a fun event. I've done it 1 or 2 years because I was away one of the other years, but this is a great event. So May 4th, 8 a.m., Connecticut High School. Register. All right, thank you. And now we have the mascot, Miss Napolitano Ferno.
So I want to address that President Trump got involved in helping one of our neighboring Massapequa. Their president has been in close contact with me from their board. I would like to ask our board for support to send a letter addressed to President Trump to ask for help for our mascot. I think that we should exhaust all avenues. I brought the Newsday paper today. And like I said, president to help high school team retain their name. Why are we not doing that? You know, we should be doing the same thing. Even if ultimately at the end, we need to make a different decision, why are we not exhausting all avenues? I want to be known as the strong Connecticut board, not as the board who didn't go down without a fight. And there's no reason for us not to, at the very least, advocate and send a letter to him. Why not be part of this instead of being the district that's sitting here quietly while Massapequa was doing the heavy lifting and they're getting it done?
I definitely support sending that letter because I agree with you. I think we can't give up without exhausting all options. The Thunderbird is part of our history, and I do believe it's doing a disservice to our own Connecticut history to just end it and give up without exhausting all options. And I absolutely agree that we should send a letter to President Trump. I am right on board with that to see if we can get help. He did, mention Massapequa. And I agree with you. I want to be the district that is strong, that is going to stand by and defend our community, defend our history as well. So I agree with you on that, and I am for that.
I don't have a problem with sending a letter. No harm, no foul. You want to send a letter? Go right ahead.
So I was actually going to say we've sent letters to the governor. We've sent letters to other state officials. I have no issue with writing a letter to the president either.
So I have issue because of the topic, not because of the president, and I'm going to explain. I personally don't feel that we're being strong by fighting. Sometimes I think like admitting that perhaps whether or not I understand it, like we have seen members of this very community speak out about like the ways that they are not okay with the use of Thunderbirds, and that individual had even said something to the effect of, I also didn't understand, so I spoke to like the elders of my tribe and like understood better. So for me, it's not, that's 4 yeses. You're going to go ahead with the letter, which is fine. I just want to say that I don't necessarily think that fighting is always a sign of strength. Sometimes I think like supporting those who maybe I don't understand it, but like they've been very clear that they feel it, right? Like maybe it's not my lived experience, but like I don't want to. The whole point is that the argument being that like we took their history, so to try to like say it's ours and reclaim it, it gets like really sticky, and I just want to make sure that like I'm at least being respectful of what I've been told. I've been reading articles since the president tweeted, or I don't even know what you call it anymore, X'd what he said. And there was one from a Indian news outlet where the Shinnecock Nation spoke out and was just like, this is not okay. Like, we are not okay with this. We want it to stop. And like, I just want to be respectful of that too and not get so lost. We've had a lot of change over time, right? Like there was a time where like women couldn't vote, and when that changed, it was uncomfortable. My point being like every big change is uncomfortable. I just don't, for me personally, I don't feel that the fight is a sign of strength anymore, as much as it almost feels like a little bit of a temper tantrum by us. And that, again, is just my opinion. I wish this wasn't the case. I wish this wasn't all happening, to be honest, but here we are. But like I said, you guys can Go
I'm gonna
send it.
I'm gonna totally disagree with you. I don't think it's a temper tantrum. I think that when you listen to the community, which I stated we should send a survey, and no survey. I said we should ask the community. And last board meeting, people got up and spoke at the mic, and they were predominantly telling us to fight for the mascot. We've gotten emails that have come back and forth, but if you really count them, most are saying fight for and also when I'm looking on the platforms, on social media platforms that I don't think should be what we use on everything, but I have said, I know the people that are writing it, and I'm like, some of them don't agree with me on pretty much anything, but yet agree with me on the mascot. I don't look at this like people are having temper tantrums. I look at Massapequa, and I can only wish that Connecticut Board of Ed someday is as strong as Massapequa's. I'm telling you, they are unified, they are civil, they do things together. It's just a different world. And to be perfectly honest with you, to say that it's a temper tantrum because or that's what you think it looks like, that's offensive to everyone who in this district feels like a T-bird for life. I had somebody say to me that that's offensive, and you know what I said? You can't take away the T-bird in me because you take away T-birds or you take away the mascot. You want to take away the imagery, you could take away anything you want. I graduated in the class of 1996, and I'm a proud T-bird, and I will always be a T-bird. Whether we are the Bulldogs, whether we are the Cougars, whether we are the Cardinals, I don't care. Make up whatever you want. But at the end of the day, you can't tell people how to feel is right. So the people who feel like they're T-birds and Thunderbirds, and they've used this as more of an honoring of Native Americans, everyone can look at things from their own lens. But I've always looked at it like it's a beautiful way to honor it's not something we're mocking, we're not making fun of. I want to thank President Trump. I hope this goes viral. I want to thank President Trump for getting involved. I told this board he was going to get involved. I told the board president. I told Dr. Centimore. President Trump will get involved. President Trump is not going to sit back. Thank you, President Trump.
I said looks, appears like a temper tantrum. I'm not saying that the people are having a temper tantrum, right? I'm saying from if you're looking at it from a very aerial view, outside in, not in this, it can appear that way is what I was trying to say. I'm not saying that, listen, I don't love it. You know what I mean? I'm not sitting here saying that this is my favorite thing we've ever had to deal with, right? It's just not. But I'm just trying to think ahead. We all know that there's deadlines that were posted for things, and I have been swirling this with many other topics, right? Where it's which one trumps the what? Federal, state, this, who could do that, who could do that? I just want to make sure that we are doing what's best and we're not solely acting on our emotions, right? Because you're right, you can't take your experience away, right? You can't take mine, you can't take yours, you can't take it. Sorry, Marisol, you didn't go here.
I'm the only non-T-bird on the board. It's okay.
She doesn't even go here.
I'm a T-bird by
nobody can take what our experience was in the district, right? But I don't think that's the goal. At least it's not how I'm taking it. I don't think it's trying to replace it. I'm not saying anybody on this board is disrespecting it. I don't think anybody is. But that's kind of where we've landed. And I just don't want to continue to bang our heads on a wall and just in the process hurt people and actually end up dishonoring them when they're directly telling us how they feel. That's all I'm saying.
I do believe that we are doing a tremendous disservice to our community, our people that actually live here, by taking away our own history. This district has been around for decades, and I do, no offense, but I do find it very insulting, not necessarily to me. I've got a strong backbone, but it's insulting in general to the district to say it's a temper tantrum. We're up here, we're elected here to represent the people. We're elected here to be Thunderbirds and to stand up for what's right for our community. And while I absolutely agree, you don't want to disrespect any Native American history, but where do you cross the line when now you're disrespecting Connecticut history? At some point we have to draw that line and say, even to the government, enough is enough. Our own district, Connecticut State River. I mean, came from Native American. We have Cherokee Street School. People said this over and over again, so we're blue in the face. I mean, what are we going to do? Change every single town? At what point do we put the brakes on the slippery slope that we're going down with politics? Because that's ultimately what this is. It's politics. And say, keep your political agendas out of our schools with Thunderbirds. We're not insulting anybody. We don't use it in that manner. And I feel the same way you do. I would love to get President Trump involved to help us stand up for our community, our people that live here, and defend our history as Connecticut Thunderbirds.
I also think that we need to reflect back. If we went back 2 years ago to when we had the flag issue that was dismissed in court. So had when I was sitting with the prior super, had we not supported the decision, had we not pushed forward, had we said, I don't think we should do this because, we might be offending this one or that one, because there's always going to be somebody who is unhappy with a decision. But ultimately, we pushed, right? We pushed forward because we were pushed and we had no choice but to push back. And how did that work out? Worked out pretty well. It got dismissed in court. I mean, the reality is this. If you dig your heels in and push back and say, not today, not anymore, we just can't keep having it where Connecticut Board of Ed is a board that just rolls over. We need to be a board that unites and says, not today, not anymore. We were elected by the people. We should be the ones making local decisions, not the Board of Elections. And I will tell that to them. You could send this to them. They understand how I feel. They've heard me because I have said things to people that work in these offices. I've made it clear where I stand, that I do not think that should be taking local control away from the local people that are voted in. They're voted in for a reason to make those decisions. I also believe that had we gone with what you're saying, like, people say this looks like a temper tantrum, that looks like a temper tantrum. Well, I'm sorry. I'm going to fight for the people. And you know who I'm fighting for? The 2 young men, along with all of those students in this district that have asked me, come to me. I had two students last week, 2 young men who came to me and said, Jackie, we have a question for you. I said, what? They said, we want to be T-Birds. We want to be T-Birds. I said, oh, well, we're doing the best we can, guys. They said, no, we want to graduate. Can you just help us for 2 more years? We just want to graduate T-Birds. So you know what? I'm going to fight for the kids who came to me and said, Jackie, can you do this? Yes, I'm going to do that. I do not look at it as we are showing a sign of disrespect. I will always look at it because I always have honored the beautiful Native American heritage that goes along with it. I also believe that we can look at Connecticut Thunder, Connecticut T-Birds, Connecticut, but I also have been here long enough that I am telling you all that the state does not want us to do anything that's a derivative of Thunderbird. So that puts us now where we do have to change. And I'm uncomfortable with telling children, you know what, guys, I'm throwing the towel in. We're changing. We're going to take $1 million off our budget, or $500,000, to change everything, even if it takes some money out of their programs. I'm not doing it. Not today, and I'm going to fight.
I think messaging matters. So, like, you wouldn't go to the children and be like, I'm throwing the towel in because we're weak. We would educate them on the history and why this is happening. And the money for the change is in the budget. And it's not millions. Like, we know this, right? Like, we had this.
It's hundreds of thousands of dollars.
But it's in the budget we just approved if needed. So,
it's
like,
hundreds of thousands of dollars. So to say that it's anything less, and it's
I'm just saying it's not $1 million. Like, was just the number that, like, I'm just saying it's
the number
millions. My
4 years ago was close to $1 million.
Right, and we did our job like any.
Yes, I did my job as the Board of Ed trustee.
The number is 340,000.
Right, because we all did. That was even after I came on that I was like, I would like all of these uniforms. Can we check on them? And we did, and we got that number way down. I'm not saying again, like, I wish that money could go to
Okay,
Whatever,
Melissa,
but,
like, I
like-
think that April once said to me, and she did, you said you have your 3 votes, right? You just said that to me, but downstairs. Yep, you have your 3 votes, we don't need to vote. So, there we go.
But she's still entitled to her opinion as the one non-vote.
I understand that, but saying something like, you know, it makes us look like we're having temper tantrums, I take that disrespectfully to the children who literally just came to me last week. I had children come to me and ask me to fight for them. They are not my children. These are the community's children.
Okay.
And they asked me to fight for them. I will do that.
I
And
will
I'm not throwing it
apologize
down.
then for my choice of words if anyone, especially any kids, feel offended. I'm not saying anyone is having a temper tantrum. I'm saying that's what it kind of looks like. We're splitting hairs after a certain point. And that is all I'm saying. I'm not saying anyone's having a temper tantrum. Again, I graduated from here, but I would also then, yes, I would like to not be listed on this letter, please.
No problem. I'm for that. That's fine. Whoever wants to sign it, sign it.
I would be very glad to sign my name on a letter addressed to President Trump.
Myself as well.
Okay. Does anybody else have any discussion items before we move on to the committee reports? Okay, committee reports. Drug and Alcohol Task Force, Ms. Sinatelli.
Thanks. At the meeting, we discussed that on April 23rd and 24th, the outreach residents will be coming for an open forum and question. This is to let students know that there is help out there and that you can come forward without getting in trouble or any repercussions. I think this is a great program due to the fact that, as we all know, there's an uptick in vaping, drugs, and you know, many different addictive habits. So I think it's good for the students to hear from their peers about their own struggles and what they've gone through and the help that they're getting. As we've talked about before, we have the program in the high school that if you are caught vaping with parental permission, and it is 100% right now, the parents sign for you to go into a program, I'll call it, but I put that in quotes, that you go once a week and you are in counseling. Due to this program, we had several of the kids actually want to go further after the program and continue on in an outreach program so that they can continue the help, and they wanted to stop the drug use that they had. So that was great. We also discussed that there's a grant that we can go for through it's called the DFC grant. I believe it's like $125,000, and yeah, which is amazing. Mr. Modica, who runs the committee, he had received the grant in his old district, and they actually used the money towards, teaching the kids safe practices. They actually had a post-prom party. So they had buses, the grant paid for this, pick the kids up from the prom hall, bring them back to the school where there was food. They had casino night, and I know, that's gambling, but it was just in fun. And surprisingly to them, so many kids participated. So they didn't go out drinking. They weren't out places that people didn't know. They actually stayed at the school till about 5 a.m. And many, there was so many activities and things for them, again, paid for by the grant. And obviously we can use the money towards other things too, but this was just some of the examples that were given to us. Just a quick little story. One of the students had mentioned that a middle schooler was vaping and got very sick. The vape was laced with crystal meth. It was actually tested. So I want to throw that out there just to the community, that you just never know what's in these vapes. And it is sad, but the kids think that they were having nicotine based on what the student had said, and instead they were getting a drug that made them, like I said, very sick. Let's see. We are trying to figure out how to use the clubs, the SAD and the Future Teachers of America, to go into the elementary schools and educate the students and the middle schools on what age appropriate, the vaping and things like that, because many of the students who are in this committee agreed that we have to start younger, that once you start in high school, that it's not not early enough. You need to start younger in helping these kids. And they wanted to say that, these kids in these clubs would go through a training course on what should they be saying and how they'd say it and how they'd participate in going through, like, with other clubs, the library and things. So I'll have to get more information on that as it comes about, but these are some of the things that were talked about.
Thank you. Can I have a motion and a second to,
We did have a mental health meeting.
oh, did you? I don't
Yeah,
have
we
that.
did, and policy meeting, yeah, so, and actually, the thing I wanted to bring up for the Mental Health Advisory Council was the grant that April just talked about, which sounds fantastic, 125,000 here we can get, but what I do want to let the community know is that there is which maybe Dr. C, you can elaborate a little more on this, but there is a component to this that in order to keep it, there's a survey that would have to go to the students. So, and the surveys are great, but for me, I want, and I'm putting this on the record, whatever survey that goes out, I want it to be an opt-in only. That if the parents have to see it, they have to be okay with their child taking these surveys. If they don't respond on the opt-in, then the student does not take it. It's different from an opt-out where if the parent doesn't see it, the kid takes it only if they say no. Now you have to actually say yes. So I just wanted to put that out there. I mean, it does sound like a fantastic opportunity, but these are the little things that we have to work out. So if you want to elaborate a little bit more on that, Dr. C.
Yes, and this grand opportunity, and it is significant. $125,000 a year per year over 5 years, with the opportunity to reapply for another 5 years. And this would be partnered with the Youth Enrichment Services. Yes, they do have to submit this very soon, so I do need the blessing from the board tonight for me to give them the green light tomorrow. I know we had some questions about the different things that would be covered. There's a lot of leeway, in terms of speakers and presentations. Some things do have to get pre-approved, but not through the grant administrative piece, but that's not a concern. To what Ms. DiLorenzo was saying, there is a lot of latitude with the survey piece. Basically, we'd be committing to doing a couple of surveys over the 5 years. And I do not believe during the first 2 years we'd have to do a survey, but there'd be a lot of latitude in terms of taking, an approved type of survey question, because it doesn't have to be validity to the surveys, and customizing them to fit, Connect Quad and whatever parental pre-knowledge and pre-approval components. We'd have that flexibility. I know we've spoken about other funding sources and doing supporting all these great efforts in our district with mental health and all kinds of negative decision making. I really endorse this opportunity, but I do need to give the green light like tomorrow. So I just want to make sure that the board is on board. And that we can move forward with this.
Yeah, I'm a yes.
Yes.
I mean, I don't know that I'm a yes. I don't know that I'm a no. I don't really know what you're looking for from the board because it's the first I'm hearing from it. If you're asking me my opinion on the survey, I am not a fan of the opt-in option. So I'm not exactly sure what you're requesting from us right now.
If you can apply
What kind of guidance?
We're just applying for the grant.
Okay, but you have to tell them what we're going to do with the money, right? And how we're going to utilize it? Is that?
No, you don't have to tell them right away how you're using the money.
Yeah, ask for free money. I'm always a fan of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, free money I'm in, but I am not a fan of the opt-in for the surveys.
Neither am I.
Yeah, I feel just my opinion on that, and that's fine if you disagree, but I do believe that the opt-in is important because you do have parents that don't see it, they're busy, and we had that many years ago with a survey, I think it was 2018 or something, parents saw it and they said, I didn't know my kid took this, and we had that, I think last year, it's a P&A survey, it was 120 something questions that were really, really deep. And sure enough, when we gave that to the parents and said, take a look at this, they didn't want their kids to take it. So I am for the opt-in because I do believe you want parents to be aware of the questions that are presenting. They are the parent. They should know what their children are are being asked in school. I mean, some of these questions were all the deep questions about drugs, suicide, everything. And I strongly support the opt-in for that reason. Parental involvement. We are here to their children. They have every right to know what kind of questions we are asking their students. So that's my stance on it. I stand by that.
My issue is going to be, what are they doing with the data? I've said this for years with surveys, especially student ones, that what are we doing with the data? A couple months ago, I brought forward that I wanted to see a graduation survey. I wanted to see this after I went to the conference in October. There was a couple companies there that do it, and there were a bunch of districts that told me what a great experience it is when the outgoing seniors don't feel like they have to worry about any kind of lashback in saying what they didn't like about their 13 years in school. It wasn't, I don't like this person or that person. It was nothing like that. It was more about, what can we do? What can we do to help with the bullying situation? There is obviously a bullying situation in Connecticut that needs to be addressed, and not just addressed because we have a committee. I just was saying this to, it might have been you, I think it might have been you, about the committees, that I understand that committees are great. I'm on a bunch of committees. I've been on probably almost every committee since I've been on the board, here or there. The problem is, I see a lot of, we start something, but then we don't finish it. We start something, then we don't finish it. Then we start something else. And I just feel like we need to do a better job at starting things and finishing them before we start something else. Otherwise, we're just going round and round, again, like a hamster in a wheel. I also can't, I really want to understand why we're going to do a survey like this, but we haven't looked into these other surveys that we want to. Is it something that we could do under this? Or does it have to be something that falls under the alcohol and drugs? Can we ask alcohol and drug questions? Does it have to go to all students, or can we just pick a grade level as a pilot? Is there something like that we can do?
I agree with, like, not, I think part of I know. Part of it is that, like, some of these committees I think can be like, yeah, I don't know, it's getting late. Like, rolled some of these committees together, and that's half the problem, right? So it's like a little duplicative sometimes. Like, I'll be like, which committee am I in right now? Because I feel like it's deja vu from whatever the similar, there's a couple of them, and I think that can play into, like, us never getting all the way through something, because, like, even this started at mental health before the conversation realized this was more for the drug and alcohol committee, and, like, this is how it gets lost in the middle of it somewhere, you know what I mean? Like, and I think if we look at our committees a little bit, we might find just a smidgen of overlap in a few places.
I definitely agree there's overlap, and I do agree that I've been a part of many of the committees and they don't go anywhere. I can say for the drug and alcohol one, that is not the truth. Mr. Modica follows through with everything he has to say. And I didn't know this started mental health due to the fact that Mr. Modica had this in his old district, and he actually had the woman come to our last meeting to discuss this grant. So I have to give him credit that he gets out there, he does these things, he comes up with these programs, he implements the programs, he gets other staff members involved on board, and I don't see that in many of the other committees. I do have to agree.
I want to make sure that I pinpoint, so you know. I wasn't speaking about the alcohol and drug committee specifically. I'm saying, because I do think he does a great job. I actually missed the last one because I got an email that said, it was in the midst of our district clerk switchover, and I got an email from the old district clerk that stated, that it was canceled, but it was the wrong one. It was, they sent me for both of them. I think it was, the anti-bullying was canceled, and they sent me for both, and they canceled both of mine. So I apologize, I didn't make it. But I will say that my issue is more with some of the other committees, which you've been on with me, and you see, and it's like, okay, we start something, but then what? Then what? And then what? And I just get, like, it starts to become frustrating that we, like, it's frustrating that I bring up things, other people bring up things, and then they don't move forward. So it would just be nicer to see us moving with something before we start a whole new initiative and we haven't even gotten this one perfected. It's just my opinion, and I hope down the road someone takes advice to let's finish something. But again, I wanted to bring up, I told Marisol to make it, you don't have to make it a board discussion, but the graduation survey, I want it, I know we're talking about, I would like a survey like that kids can opt into. I don't know I would necessarily be okay with this kind of survey. I agree with you without having more information, because the reality is, if we continue to have surveys that parents are not okay with, that's going to be an issue. And do we lose the funding? And then the truth is, where does that data go? I love that we collect data, but are we going to put it on pie charts? Are we going to give transparency to the community? Is that going somewhere? Does it go to another, is it going to go to other districts? Is it going to go to the state? Is it going to go, what are we doing with it? Is the data, what, I've always said this, where does the data go?
I just want to give one more shout out to Christina over there, that at least for the curriculum committee last year, we did have a goal, and at the end, we actually came up with a decision, and it was implemented about the grade change. So I do have to say that we did have a goal last year, and it was implemented.
Yeah, and I just want to also just mention the Mental Health Advisory Council. We do a lot. We've accomplished a lot. Dr. Pisani is really, really a fantastic leader on there. And we've done a lot of things, Community Wellness Day, everything. So that's another one. But I know you want to make sure that when you set a goal, you follow through. And it's wonderful. You work together. It's like what we do at Community Wellness Day. We set a goal for that. We follow through. We have collaboration with parents, the board, teachers, everybody, mental health staff, who's wonderful. So, yeah, I definitely want to, that committee does definitely do a lot.
That's like me and April went to the disabilities committee since our last meeting. And I have to tell you, in my opinion, it's one of our best committees because they are moving. The teachers, the staff, the Mrs. O'Hara, the SEPTA, they are incredible. April, you've seen this has been a fantastic experience this year being on the disabilities committee.
Yeah,
and
they do a lot.
How they're going to have the unified basketball and have I hope a lot of people come out that day because they're going to be having
May 16th.
They're going to be having a fair.
Hold. We're doing one committee at a time. We got the mental health.
She's with me on this one.
I know, but we haven't moved on to the disabilities yet. We're like,
but the fair, they're going to have, please come out and support the kids. Like I said, Unified Basketball is a great program. Unified Bowling was great, but the Disabilities Committee is doing an incredible job raising money, to try to give back. Really, we talked about a lot at the last meeting about how we can move things forward. And again, they're doing an incredible job this year, the Disabilities Committee. It's the first year for it. Really great committee.
okay. Policy committee meeting. I don't know if April or Jackie, whichever one.
Actually, Jackie, you can go first if you'd like.
Yeah, we brought up one of the policies that we brought up. We talked about, which Melissa had brought up. I don't know if it was the last meeting or the one before that, about the student member. So we did talk about that, and one of the things that I wanted the board to also know about that is that, we went over that policy. We made changes. There is a timeline on that we have to, I guess, kind of swear in, or the student starts on July 1, so we only have so many meetings before that. So there was talk about the possibility of waiving the first reading, going right into the approval, but I didn't want to do, I always worry about precedent and everything about doing that. So I wanted the board to know where we were at with that. And that was because of the timeline constraint that you could only do so much before they have to start. So I wanted to put that out there. That was discussed today.
Yeah, I'm okay with going to a second reading.
Me too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
the timeline definitely, and this is just for the community. This was for the student who's going to be sitting at the dais with us next year to be the what?
Ex officio?
Officio, yes.
Ex officio.
I just was giving the layman's term of who this is.
Just question,
give the
April
students a voice. Yes.
or Jackie. Are we using the like we're waiving the reading? Are we using the sample policy essentially? The one like
We made some
The
changes.
district
to
clerk
connect-
is
like,
going
okay.
to send
Yeah.
you a copy so we can vote.
Yeah,
next
that's
year, so you
like
can read
fine.
it
I
before.
figured because I already looked at that
Yeah.
one and it's like,
Yeah.
Yeah,
it is what
I
it is.
definitely want you to all see the revised version beforehand. So you
Yeah,
have
she's
time-
going, as soon as
ample
she
time to look
revises
it
it,
over.
she's going to send it.
Okay. Were there any other committee meetings? Because I only had the one on my list, so. Okay. I have a motion and a second to adjourn the meeting.
Motion.
No motion.
So, do you want to go?
I
All in favor?
This was happening, yes.
Aye.
Good night, everyone.
Have a good night.